Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
So is your inner voice leading you around in circles, and are you looking for inner guidance but can't quite get to that soul wisdom? Hello, this is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith. This episode is the start of a new season. Very excited about that. We have, it's me, I'm on Facebook Live, and the podcasts are being recorded here, and then they're going to go up to wherever you want to listen to your favorite podcasts. So we're going to start meeting here, right here on this channel on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. I'm going to kind of talk to you for about 20 minutes or maybe 40 minutes, depending on the topic. And you can comment in the stream or in the little comment section, or you can ask questions and I'll answer them. I have a couple little technology things surrounding me. So this episode is about learning the differences between intuition and anger and fear. Often your emotions can swing in wide circles without giving you the wisdom that you need, or bringing you to a place of intuition that you might want. So we're going to kind of take a look at that and how to recognize those voices and what they could possibly mean to you. Recognizing your inner voices. When you're making a decision, you're thinking through or trying to come to terms with an issue. Don't you want to access your best wisdom possible? Don't you want to kind of be able to weigh things out and see things in a maybe not a logical, or have more vision to what the actual situation is happening? And sometimes we have lots of inner voices happening all at once. One may be angry, one may be frustrated, one may be very limited in their thinking, with an inner judge or a inner critic that's just taking over, he said, she said kind of thing. And yet sometimes we have big waves of emotion that come through our minds and through our whole bodies that even stop us from thinking and moving through in a logical form, or seeing a higher picture, a higher perspective. And it stops us. We get frozen in time. I'm sure all of us have had that experience where we're just frozen, like the deer in front of the headlights of the car. And what we need to do is have skills and tools that can take a look at this fight or flight, or take a look at this emotion and energy and sort things out. Now, when you're in fight or flight and you don't quite know what to do there, so how do you get yourself out of that? How do you work with that? Just take deep breaths or move yourself out of the situation. And that's one level, or that's one category of feelings and emotions. And that's highly reactive and highly self-protective. And then there are another levels of emotion that you might want to work yourself through. And I can give you some categories, how to separate that out. But I really want to start with telling you how emotions are basically energy in motion. The energy has a message to give to you, and for your aware self to consider, to weigh things in. Emotional hits aren't wisdom. They're a heads up. So if you have a feeling of an emotion that's just flying through you, maybe it's anxiety, or maybe it's anger. Let's go with anger. That's what I started with. And you're just ready to just tell so-and-so what you think of them, or you're ready to just rip loose. And yet in that flow of emotion, of anger, there are so many layers and so many levels of what's happening to you personally that have nothing to do with what's in front of you. So the decisions that you're making are based in your past a lot of times, or the decisions you're making aren't well informed because you're reacting to the emotion rather than stepping back and say, what is this emotion telling me about the situation? What is this emotion telling me about me and what I need to know? So let's kind of go into talking about separating your feelings. And there's a reason why I'm talking about this, and we'll get to that in a moment. But separating your feelings, your intuition, yes, it's based on your feelings within yourself. What complicates things is that our feelings has lots of emotions going on with it. And what does that really mean to trust how you feel? Because right now, for instance, you may be saying like, I am so angry, I could just rip this person's head off, or I could just destroy you. This feeling of destruction, anger can come in with a feeling of destruction. And do you trust that feeling? Is that the right feeling? Or or is this feeling a reaction? So you could categorize your feelings like this. You have a reactionary feelings to situations, or you have old feelings that are wrapped up in beliefs of hurt and disappointment. And then you have I told you so feelings of judgment, blame, and shame, where you want to control the situation. And do you have and that could include fear. You blame yourself, or you judge others and you shame other or somebody else. So you're in a exchange. So your emotions are creating a chaotic exchange. You also have feelings of desires and dreams of things you want to come true, things you want to create, and those seem like they come from a totally different place within yourself than the anger and the fury or the rage or the anxiety. And then you have feelings that are telling you something isn't right, something is wrong. Watch out, or you have a sense of something beyond what your senses are telling you, saying, I have a sense that I'm not going to get in the car today, or I really need to make the decision, or I really need to call so and so. And those are coming from a totally different place in your conscious self. And then you have your intuitive senses. Sometimes how your desires and dreams can have a little bit of hit of intuition in there, and your feelings that telling you something isn't wrong can sometimes have some intuition. So can sometimes have common sense, meaning I've been in this situation before and I know how it's going to end up because I have lots and lots of practice at it. And sometimes the intuition just says, you really need to call your friend you haven't talked to her in several years, and calling her, then you find out that, holy cow, it's right spot on. I really am glad I called her. And so I'm going to check here take a little bit. It's right spot on. I really am glad I called her. Check to see these comments, and I'm really happy to see that we have some comments. If I can look at this. Well, this is hilarious. Hi, Marilyn. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. Thank you guys for your support and all that cool stuff. So I'm going back to the categories. We just went through all the categories of your feelings, and I want to talk about your sense of well-being. Your sense of well-being is the most important category of all of your feelings. And it's not a selfish category. Am I okay? Is this going to grow corn? Is this going to be okay? Am I on solid ground? And a lot of times when we're in these huge emotions, we're not in a place of well-being. We're just not. And our decisions are based on wisdom and well-being. And your own view of yourself can lead you to even more mixed feelings. If you don't love yourself, if you don't even know what a well-being is to you, and you've been sacrificing or been a caretaker, or you have been all kinds of things except for loving yourself, your feelings can even be less grounded or askew. And they're not grounded in wisdom, of your own wisdom in yourself. So when you're in the middle of all your reactionary feelings, I would say pause, listen to the message that you're telling yourself, listen to the message that the emotion is telling you. And for instance, what's under that anger? Lift the hood. Imagine it's a car, and just lift the hood. Say, how's this engine running? What's really what gas is going through this engine, and go deeper into the emotion. And how did your plans and expectations lead you here? The Buddha says our expectations are the road to our own misery, right? So have you ever heard that before? It's very, I find that I have to go back to that saying oftentimes, because I could be very frustrated or very upset. Things aren't falling into place. I can't find Facebook. I can't get live, and I'm frustrated. I got to let it go, and let go of how I thought it should go, and go into, what do I have here in front of myself? What do I actually have to work in the present moment now? And then those messages that we're telling ourselves are now going to start to give us information we need to go forward, because we're no longer in the reactionary. It's not working right. It's not happy. I'm not happy with it, and I'm not okay. When you are in the middle of all your reactionary feelings, again, I want to go back to that pause and that listen. And I'm not talking about suppressing your feelings or suppressing your emotions. I'm talking about becoming a witness, that sacred witness that steps back and says, all right, what's going on here? And I always imagine that I have something on my shoulder, up on my right shoulder, as a matter of fact, for some reason. And I ask my sacred witness to tell me what's really going on here. Give me the facts, just the facts. So shifting into a sacred space of just the facts is very, very helpful. And then I can start to look at the feelings. What are the feelings telling me? Maybe the feelings are saying you're standing in the middle of the road, get out. Or I have a great story when I was writing my book, Divine Love Affair and Akashic Journey. I was writing it, and I was getting very anxious to the point where I was frozen. I had that block where I couldn't write another word, and I couldn't figure out what on earth was going on. So I just sat with it. What's this feeling? I said, well, it's fear, it's anxiety. I just don't think I can write. Who do I think that I can write? And I'm just insane and really self-critical. And then I said, well, I got to pick the hood up on this. I got to figure out what's really going on underneath this. So I went underneath the anxiety. And then I kept saying, well, what are you anxious about? What do you think is going to be, how are you, why failure? Why do you think you're going to have a failure here? And what are you doing? That you're doing that making you think that you're having a failure, and this imposter syndrome and all that's going on. I keep lifting it and lifting it until finally I got to the point where, as I was writing a chapter, when I froze, I wasn't writing my bibliography. I wasn't writing down as I wrote each paragraph and each section of the chapter. I wasn't clearly documenting where this information was coming from. And then I realized, hold on. And I made an agreement with myself that I was going to go back to all the chapters I had written, only been two, and I was going to document all the bibliography information that I need to, biographical information, whatever was coming along, in a separate document, so that in the back of my book, I have for each chapter who I read and who inspired me and where the information was from, as well as if it was channeled from myself. Once I did that, got under the anxiety and realized I needed a different structure for writing, everything, all the rest of the chapters just flew out, just were done very quickly, because I faced my problem, and I didn't even know that I had a problem until I looked at my emotions. So the emotions weren't telling me to stop. Actually, I was reacting to my anxiety and fear with all these negative self-thoughts. And once I moved them away and worked through them, I realized that there was a really solid piece of information there. Your biography, your bibliography, all that stuff, all that information that goes into writing a book needed to be documented. And my confidence came right back. So when you're in a strong emotion, stop, listen, get under the hood, get under what's going on, and go deeper and ask your sacred witness to give you the facts only and guide you through what you're feeling. Is it a reaction, or is it a piece of information? So that you can look for the wisdom within that leads you to an extraordinary state of mind, that leads you to something that you didn't know you could think, do, or know. I want to talk to you a little bit more about intuition and untuition, I call them. Untuition is loud and fearful and controlling and demanding, and a sense that drives you to do, to plan, to judge, to blame, shame, no matter what. Do you ever know people who you'd rather yell at you, just as soon yell than talk? Why talk when you can yell? And that is untuition. That is disconnect from information, from nurturing, from growth. This is our unconscious self that keeps us trucking through life in an ordinary, normal, or what we think is normal way. And there's usually not a lot of progress. It's usually a straight line as we move forward. The intuition has a quiet voice. It's within that takes us out of the ordinary into the extraordinary. It takes us out of what we think is normal into a place of quietness. So as I talked about it before, that alpha waves can start to move through you and inspire you. That higher essence comes in and inspires you in a new way. Can't get there when you're in the reactions to the emotions. When you're in deep emotions, you need to get there from a calm, peaceful, grounded place. So I'm going to talk to you about the three consciousness of self. unconscious, conscious, where you're in charge, that's the aware self, and higher conscious of self, which is your spirit, your higher self. And there's a fourth consciousness, a super consciousness that is the one mind at the level of the creator. So we could talk about four consciousnesses really, but the three consciousnesses are within yourself. And so I'm going to kind of do a deep dive into what those are in just a second. I want to take a tiny little break to tell you a little bit about who I am. I think most of you know me. This is Angelscapes podcast, and I'm Nancy Smith. And you can find me on my website, angelscapes.net, and with all the programs that I have to offer. I offer readings, I offer consultations, and I offer mentorships, and I offer classes. And all kinds of wonderful things. Today, what's important for me to tell you about is the teaching aspect that I offer, whether it's in classes, mentorships, or readings. So I go into your Akashic records, I go into your soul's power, your soul's language, and I help you connect to your higher power. And then we find the guidance of what you need to know in your life now. So that's what I do. This is the fourth season of the Angelscapes podcast. This is the first season that I'm doing it on my own in a podcast. You can find all of these shows, plus all of the year and a half, 2 years, oh my gosh, shows that I've already done in the podcast. Just look up Angelscapes in your favorite podcast platform, and you can find me for sure. And then also you can look up on YouTube, Angelscapes, and you'll find a lot of these videos. As you can see, I'm recording this one now, or recorded live and then put up on YouTube, so you can listen to them now. This year, I don't have a partner this year, and I love being with Mary, and she's going to come in as a special guest here and there. She had some big changes in her life, very, very exciting things going on for her. And I am excited to be on my own. You'll see and hear and get all kinds of exposure to new guests that I'm going to bring in from. I'm really excited to bring in some people from all walks of life, some crazy ideas and some crazy thoughts. So let's go back now to the consciousness of self. So the first self, a consciousness of self, is the unconscious. It's in your lower two chakras, and I'm not going to go too far because that could be a whole show by itself. But those lower chakras really just talk about what's safe, what's home, how do you feel about stuff. There's some fight or flight down in there, and there's a whole lot of rules and belief systems in those lower chakras that are unconscious that guide us in our life. Lots of people talk about that being the ego, and we need to overcome the ego and act. As a matter of fact, it is ego, but it's also what we need to know to stay alive and to thrive and succeed in this life here. So those are very important skills that we need, and tools that we need, but they're not in our aware mind. So sometimes they take over and they ride the bus, they drive the bus, and they will actually trigger anger or anxiety, or here's the rules, that's not following the rules, here's what you need to do. And we may find ourselves in situations that are untenable. How did I get myself here, and how am I feeling this way, and why can't I move forward? It's your unconscious mind that's putting the wheels in the mud and not moving you forward. We'll have another whole nother show about stuck energy and how that builds, but I just wanted you to know about this little piece. So then you go into the conscious mind, which is your aware self. And we're getting this whole spiritual thing. We'll get to it. The conscious mind is your aware self, like that sacred witness that's on your right shoulder that I described. And that aware self is where the wisdom lies. It's where the creativity lies. It's where the present moment is. And we cannot go forward and grow and nurture on a soul spiritual level. I'm not saying go to church and be spiritual, but in that way that connects with us, it helps us blossom out. We cannot move forward if we're not in an aware self, an aware state of mind. And then there's the higher conscious mind, which is awake and aware beyond, to infinity and beyond. It's our spirit. It's what our soul is created for us to have the spirit within our bodies. We're spirit having a human experience, not human having a spiritual experience. We're turning that around in this podcast to kind of talk about our emotions are from our unconscious place. They're giving us information, and our aware self is that's the responsible of the ability to respond portion of ourselves that says what's going on. And then from the higher self comes wisdom, or comes inspiration that can say, you can look at this differently, or here's some tools that you haven't thought about before. So these three conscious parts of ourselves need to be working together in unity in order for intuition to work. Instead of anger taking over, we need to use these different aspects of our conscious aware self to shift from the emotion and move into the powerful creative thinking. And the pathway to accessing intuition and having intuitive living, and it's totally worth it, guys, is first begins with relaxing and feeling. Remember, I said it's confusing if intuition is with our feelings and we're angry and we're in. Let's talk about the feelings of lined up with our sense of well-being, what it feels like to be human, what it feels like to be connected with our spirit and our soul, as opposed to feeling like we're reacting, we're defending, we're in the corner. And that feeling can't be accessed until we love ourselves and we know what works for us. We know what brings us joy. And we can acknowledge how we feel. We respect how we feel. However, we're not driven by how we're reacting. And so there's a thoughtfulness here. There's a compassionate piece here, but you're acknowledging how you really feel and you're owning it within yourself. So when you're in that big tirade of anger or anxiety, the best place to go in that is out of the situation, to move out of the situation and then bring yourself back home, bring yourself back to ground. Sometimes we're not able to do that. And if that's the case, right today, right now, let's think of a toolbox. What is the process you can use to keep yourself from really kind of imploding into destruction? Because you're not working from wisdom, you're not going anywhere special. So without judging and planning, without judging on yourself or planning that you should be doing something else, I want you to take some time in many moments during the day to love yourself, to know, is this making me happy? How do I feel about this? And then when you start to discover what makes you happy, to make a list of it and then do those things on purpose. I feel much better when I take a break at 3 o'clock for 20 minutes to a half an hour. And then I can go for the rest of the day to finish up what I have to do. But if I don't take those 20 minutes at 3 o'clock, I know that I'm toast. So I'm learning how to do self-care. I'm taking care of myself, and you all have your different things that you need to do. So when you trust yourself, when you respond to what you need and you're taking care of yourself, that leads to feeling safe within yourself. You're trusting yourself. You know that you're going to take care of yourself. And then that lets you be calm, and it lets you ground, and that lets you be in a place of I'm okay. It takes you out of fight or flight, because that your mind isn't able to access that alpha that pulse from your brain wave that gives you that higher thinking, that gives you that creative thinking. You're still in fight or flight. Now, to remind you that fight or flight, there is no creative thinking there. There is only reaction and rules from the past. So once you feel safe within yourself, and you're starting to think creatively, and you're starting to see that you have options and choices that you never thought of before, boom, a miracle shows up. Here, I can do this. And you start to choose and act on those options, those choices that you have, those tools. That's a huge, big tool that you use, and you start to really live in a different way. And once that thinking and living becomes creative, it leads you to a state of being present. And that is where happiness is. That's where joy is. And that's where, when you're in a state of being, that leads to a connection to flow and wisdom of your higher mind, your higher consciousness. And that's where intuition really rocks and rolls. Being a person who makes their living off of intuitiveness, I'm not perfect. I fall off the wagon all the time. But when I'm in that flow, when I really master through meditation, through thoughtful thinking, being aware of what I'm thinking, the creativity really takes me to places that I couldn't have tried to go. Even, I couldn't have planned it. I didn't, it takes me to unknown places that are like little miracles. Sometimes they feel that way. So when you're conflicted in your emotions, try putting your emotions maybe in one hand, or put another motion in another hand, and feel how you feel, and become aware of how you're feeling, and then you're moving yourself into your aware self, your aware place, which will lead to calmness, will lead to connection. So for you could put right in this hand, choose the anger's going in here, and then feel the anger be as loud as it can, and what does it feel like to be that angry? Now bring the anger down. What does it feel like to not be so angry? And this other hand, put in calmness, put in peace, calmness, and let that grow really loud, and then bring it down, so that you can choose. Do I want to be really loud within myself with the anger, or do I really want to be loud within myself with calmness? Now, I'm not saying calmness is suppressing. Calmness, it's your mind being able to think, observe, and be in the present moment, so that you can attend to what this anger is telling you about. You're not no longer reacting to the anger, you're listening to the anger, and you're sorting it out in a whole different way than you did 2 minutes ago. So that's one tool that I use. Another tool that I use if I have time for doing this, say it's a long-term decision that I need to make and I have a lot of anxiety around it, um, watch a movie. Pretend that you're sitting in a theater, and pretend that the screen in front of you is blank. Use your imagination, and if you have trouble visualizing things, write them down, or however your mind works best, and imagine yourself following through on the anxiety. I'm going to make this decision because I'm feeling anxious about this. And when I'm anxious about this, I just know the outcome's going to be over. Okay, okay, so sit there and watch yourself. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. Is that going to work for you? And then imagine now a different movie shows up. And if I don't respond to the anxiety and I pick something different, watch that movie. I don't know how to get over the anxiety, but I don't want to do it this way. I want to do it a new way. And just imagine watching a movie of something new coming forward. How do you feel about it? What are the choices that you make? So this is your imagination is opening up to allow your intuition to slip in. When we do daydreams, or when we want to envision something, our intuition can slip right in and say, "Hey, did you think about this?" And you go, "No, I never thought about this." But you do it with breath work. Breath work means you just breathe in through your nose and hold, and gently breathe out. So you're bringing your breath down to a slow rhythmic pattern, rather than a tight, shallow breath. You're bringing it down into your body, and your body relaxes. And then you're getting oxygen to your brain, and you're getting oxygen to places that need it. So you're not panicking about what's next. Um, I really have a lot to say about this, and I don't want to go on and on and on and lose you guys. So what I want to do is just wind up by talking to you a little bit about dreams, desires, and obsessions. So we thrive with when we have dreams, and we have our dreams can lead us to projects or to goals, or our dreams tell us where we want to go. I'm not talking about nightmares and not dreams when you're sleeping. I'm talking about the dreams that you wish you want to create something, or you're getting excited. And oftentimes our desires will lead us into our dreams, or help us, they'll fuel our dreams of what we kind of want to experience in our lives. And that your intuition can really step in and work with that. But sometimes our dreams become tainted by inner doubts. Again, we forgot to love ourselves. We forgot to get ourselves into that balanced place. And our dreams can turn into nightmares or obsessions, where we have to do this no matter what. So we're no longer flexible with the energy, the emotions, and the energies that are flowing between us and around us. And so our dreams can become, again, obsessions, or the desires, the thing that we want so much. When we're not loving ourselves, we want something outside of ourselves to help us feel better within ourselves. And that's when the desires to also turn into obsessions. I have to create something in my life so I don't feel this empty place anymore. And that is dangerous in terms of destruction. So you're not even looking at, is this helping me? Is this hurting me? Or is this hurting another person? Or is this causing an out of balance situation in my life? So dreams and desires, our intuition can talk through us. Our creativity can come through those desires and dreams. But again, if they get out of balance, where we're trying to fix something that's inside from an outside solution, those desires can become obsessions, and those dreams can become nightmares, and they can become destructive. So we want to be careful when you feel you must. then you know you're outside of your intuition and you're outside of your higher guidance. And you need to ask, what is driving me? What is sending me to this place? And if you find yourself disrespecting somebody, or if you find yourself minimizing somebody else's feelings, or you find yourself minimizing your own feelings, you're no longer in alignment with your highest and best. And what's driving you may be fear, it may be self-loathing, it may be there's an empty place within myself when mom and dad did this or that, or when this happened. And we're trying to fill it with things and situations as opposed to filling it with self-love and healing and nurturing ourselves through it. Do you know, or are you too involved with your feelings to see where you are going? And sometimes we can be in grief does this, loss does this, where we're in a place of being driven to replace the thing that we lost, or to fill that place within ourselves where we should have happiness. And those expectations, as the Buddha says, is our own personal road to misery. Um, so when you find yourself too involved in something and too involved in the outcome, with it, you're no longer in your intuition. You're no longer in a creative source. You're in a closed circuit. You're not moving forward in that miraculous way. Intuition and best action to take is a much different path than that path of being driven. Do you have the awareness of what is the best path to take, or is your awareness only focused on the goal that you set? And that goal is not flexible at all. It's you're not allowing the flow of creativity, or the flow of the universe, or the flow of your soul to move through your thoughts and ideas. And that's what we need. We need our soul to move through our thoughts and ideas. Are you so invested in the results that you can't see past it? You're no longer in alignment to the universal flow of energy, to the life force energy that we were created to live around. If you're living to your own detriment or the detriment of others, this would be maybe you're living in addiction. You're living in a nightmare instead of a dream that's going to take you to a beautiful place, a beautiful landscape, as it were. So this is how anger and strong feelings can X out your intuition. And when that's happening, you need to stop. Just stop, say, where am I? What am I doing? And you need to find a place to come home to caring for yourself, loving for yourself, and connect to a flow, a life flow energy within yourself. I feel that meditation, prayer, and quietness, and removing myself from the situation oftentimes are the best answers to getting my intuition back, to getting my highest mind, to my best thinking coming forward. And that's part of soul power living, which is what Angelscapes is all about, is soul power living, to live a life where you can create, you can love, you can flourish, and be the best person that you were meant to be, that you were created to be. So that is my talk for today. And I'll be back next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about intuition, because it's my favorite topic, and how it can bring you to a healthy place. Just quickly looking through, I just want to say hello to everybody who's watching me and saying hi, guys. The support is phenomenal. And it's really helping me to stay present. It's to stay here. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. If you people online, folks online, I'm going to stop the recording, and I will answer some questions and make any comments if you wish. So thank you again.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.net. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.